Hello there and welcome to another gluten-free and yeast-free baking video. How are we doing today? Today I'm going to be making a gluten-free simple chocolate cake with a chocolate buttercream. I really love this recipe because you just simply can't beat a chocolate cake, and the buttercream is going to be added to it, which is going to make it doubly chocolatey. So you will be needing the following equipment: scales, spray oil, a spatula, two 20cm or 8-inch round cake pans, measuring spoons, baking paper, a wooden spoon or an electric hand whisk, a teaspoon, a cake tester, a skewer or a toothpick, 2 large mixing bowls and a cooling rack. For your cake you'll be needing the following ingredients: 200 grams of butter softened at room temperature, I like to use Lactofree Butter, 200 grams of caster sugar, 4 medium-sized eggs beaten, 200 grams of gluten-free self-raising flour, 25 grams of cocoa powder and 1 teaspoon of gluten-free baking powder. Let's go! First things first, measure out all of your ingredients so that they're completely ready for you to use, and then preheat your oven to 190 degrees C on a conventional oven, 170 degrees C on a fan oven, or gas mark 5. Now it is time to prepare our cake tins. Because these are actually springboard ones, it means that the inside comes out, so it's easier to measure, draw around. So give me 1 second while I move these out the way. Pull out your baking paper without it rolling in on itself. Draw around the bottom of your cake pan or a springboard if you have one. And now cut out what you've just drawn. Move your rubbish to one side. And now grab your cake pan, grab your spray oil, give your pan a good spritz, coating the sides so that your cake doesn't stick. Place your baking paper inside, lining the bottom of your cake pan, and then I like to give it another quick spritz just on the bottom so it makes it easier for the baking paper to come off of your cake. Repeat this for your second cake pan and I will see you in a second. Now that your cake pans are ready, the first thing we have to do in actually making your cake is to mix together the butter and the sugar. So tip your butter into your mixing bowl. And now sprinkle on your caster sugar. Sprinkle, 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 sprinkle. Scraping down the sides just to make sure you get it all in there, because otherwise, to me, there was no point in measuring it. And mix together until light and fluffy. Now that you've done that, grab your eggs. Now that you've got your eggs, just tip them in one big go, again scraping down the bowl to make sure all of it is in there. And mix together. This is really important, okay, because you want the butter to be completely combined with the egg, otherwise you'll get air holes in your cake. And I also think that just mixing them for longer and making sure it's completely smooth is better for the cakes, as it makes them lighter and fluffy anyway. Now that you've done that, grab your gluten-free self-raising flour, your cocoa powder and your baking powder. Now that you've got your gluten-free self-raising flour, your cocoa powder and your baking powder, it is now time to mix them all together. I'm going to do this by completely adding all of the baking powder in one hit to my mixing bowl, which I should probably do as I'm speaking to you. Making sure to get it all in there by scraping down the bowl. And now, alternating between the flour and the cocoa powder, I'm going to mix it all together. You'll see how I do this as the video pans out. Before you finish mixing, we're going to mix one more time just for good luck, scraping down our cocoa powder bowl, or plate as I've chosen to use for some obscure reason. And our cocoa powder, and our flour bowl. And our baking powder bowl, just for safekeeping, I guess. And now scraping down your mixing bowl. Now give your mixture one final mix for good luck. Now that you have finished mixing and your mixture just smells, oh, so amazing, grab your cake pans. Now that you've got your cake pans, spread your mixture evenly between the two. You can do this by measuring out how much your mixture is and then dividing that by 2 and doing it exactly with scales, but I like to do it by eye because what's life without a bit of whimsy? Now that you've done this, just easily spread your mixture to the edge of the bowls, actually possibly moving your mixing bowl out of the way. Flatten your cakes as much as possible, getting them right into the sides. A bit harder on a springboard one as it moves with you. Don't worry about getting them as completely flat as possible, as they will flatten out in the oven, but I don't think there's any harm in giving it a bit of a try to help it along its way. Now that your cakes are ready, place them into your preheated oven for 20 to 25 minutes until you insert a teaspoon handle, a toothpick, a cake tester or a skewer and it comes out completely clean. Then place them in their cake pans onto a cooling rack for 10 minutes and then take them out of their cake pans and leave them to cool completely on a cooling rack. Now that your cakes are out of the oven and cooling, it is time to make the chocolate buttercream. For this you will need the following equipment: scales, measuring spoons, a large mixing bowl, a spatula and a wooden spoon or an electric hand whisk. You'll also be needing the following ingredients: 50 grams of butter softened at room temperature, I like to use Lactofree Butter, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder and 70 grams of icing sugar sifted. First things first, measure out all of your ingredients so that they're completely ready for you to use and then begin mixing. You will need to add your butter to your mixing bowl. This isn't going to make a lot of buttercream, okay, because I don't actually like a lot of buttercream, but if you find that when I've made it you want more, just double or triple the recipe depending on your liking. Sprinkle on all of your cocoa powder. Again, scraping down the sides to make sure it all goes in there. Now mix together your butter and your cocoa powder and then adding your icing sugar a little bit at a time, mix together until fully combined. Let's move you here. Now that that is fully done, scrape down your icing sugar bowl, your butter bowl, and your cocoa powder bowl, or plate as I've chosen to use for some random reason. Scraping down the sides of your mixing bowl. And mix one final time for good luck. Now scraping down the sides of your bowl again just to make sure it's all together. Preferably not getting it on yourself. Now that this is done, grab your cakes and a large plate. Now that you've got a large plate, your cakes and your icing, along with a spatula and a palette knife, I know I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but you may find it a bit easier if you've got that as opposed to just using the spatula. I don't know, it's completely up to you. So I guess just whoa, let's move that back. To just scrape all the icing onto your cake, onto one of your cakes, sorry. And now placing your spatula and your mixing bowl to one side. Begin scraping your buttercream out. See, this is where a turntable would play, but good. And just scraping it to the sides of your cake as evenly as possible. Now, I haven't done this very much, so bear with me, I'm still learning. See what I mean about it not being very much buttercream? But the buttercream is incredibly chocolatey, so unless you have a super sweet tooth, sweet tooth, you may not need much, hence why I haven't done very much. Right, how even is that? Fairly. I'm quite surprised. And also don't worry about the cake coming off if you're finding it a struggle to buttercream, because mine's doing it, as you can see, and no one's going to see it. They're only going to taste how lovely the cake is. So, also, because now this is messing up for me, don't mess with it too much. It's all going to pot, guys. There we go. Now just scrape off the excess bits that's on your spatula. Oh, sorry, your palette knife. There we go. I'm leaving it. I'm not touching it anymore. Now place your other cake on top. And there you go. And that is it. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out the links in the description where the recipe for this lovely cake will be, along with my shop where you can buy all the flour you will need and the equipment you will need for this recipe. If you do make these at home, please don't forget to tag me on Instagram and use the hashtag bakingwithvickiie, which I will put in between my hands. Let me know in the comments anything you'd like to see me make, gluten or yeast free, as I do both. And finally, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you next time. Bye! Well, I guess I better try this cake because, you know, I made it and everything, and that's one of the reasons why I love this job. I think I picked too small a spoon, but we're going to go, but we're going to go with it. So chocolatey.